one of the other issues that we spoke about, and that has been a big priority area of yours, is to improve capacity on the existing networks, because you believe that by decongesting, you're not going to have to deal with either the land acquisition problems that you may run into, and this will perhaps be more cost efficient as well for the railways. What more can we expect? What are the kind of targets that you've set for yourself internally as far as decongesting is concerned and improving efficiency on the existing network?
See, decongestion has many components. One is, of course, you put doubling wherever there's a single line. Because another line where there are 2 lines and more. That's one component. The second component is, see, when it is very, you are going in a single lane car, so there are 10 cars waiting. If there is a little bit sideway, then you can, and you want to wait.
Yeah.
So otherwise you stop your car, everything stops.
Right.
So if you can just take a detour and wait it there, so what you call loop for that. So we are trying to create a loop whereby, people can look like a siding, so that train can go there and wait while the other trains are going. So that is another way of decongesting the network.
Speaking of the reforms that you're hoping to roll out, and you've set up 2 committees. One, of course, is the Kaya Kalp headed by Mr. Ratan Tata, and the other one is headed by Mr. Ajay Shankar. Give us a sense of why the need for 2 more committees.
Ratan Tata, with 2 of the top unions that we have, and they are very strong unions, they are leaders. Just imagine, I feel they are stakeholders into this. If the employee union leaders and someone like Ratan Tata, who is no longer in business, so there is no conflict of interest, but he has a huge experience of running the business, he is going to do that. And that is how, it's like a Kaya Kalp Council, which is bringing people together, ideas together and try to implement it. This is one. The second, Ajay Shankar, is again, I think, for few weeks. I told him we want to revamp the IPP cell. Now, if you want to revamp the IPP cell, don't you think somebody has to apply mind to it? It is not something like a committee. So he's going to look into that. And also, there is one more that we are looking at, and which are announced in my budget. And all of these are implementing budget announcements. And they are very short duration. So this is not going to be there for years or something. This will just come, report, finish that task and go away. The other one is Arvind Panagariya and Ajay again. Is this to come out with a regulatory framework? See, if you want a private sector participation in railways, then we need a regulatory framework. They must understand very clearly the risk involved. There has to be a level playing field. Because I am going to take all the profits and I am going to transfer the losses, nobody is going to come. But if I give all the profits to them and I am in the loss, this is not a right public interest. So who is going to trade off? So we need some organization to create a trade-off. That trade-off also has to be done in a way that we understand railways. Because we cannot think about just borrow an idea from outside and just put it here. So this is what it is for. But I can tell you something, I personally feel that we need some expertise available for identify certain issues. There was actually one more committee, if you look at it, but they just finished the task. I had asked the CEA, Central Electricity Authority, to give me a suggestion about how can we bring down the price of electricity. Because we are buying at 7 rupees, 8 rupees a kilowatt hour, which is ridiculously high. And we are the single largest consumer of electricity. The single biggest customer cannot pay the highest price. The market actually would say that we should do exactly the opposite. So I called them just to make sure that, to sensitize my colleagues here, that it is possible to do it. If I said this possible is my word, if I get somebody like an
so is it possible? Are you going to be able to bring it down?
That is what I think we'll save about 3,000 crores in the next few years on electricity.
3,000 crores on electricity alone?
Yeah. I mean, in year and 2 years maximum. But
so by FY17 you're saying?
Yeah.
3,000 crores savings on electricity alone?
Yeah.
Okay. Since you were talking about public-private partnerships, and I understand that, in FY15-16, about 5,800 crores will be funded via the public-private partnership route. Only 2,800 crore rupees worth of PPP railway projects have been commissioned to date. Do you see these numbers changing significantly now that you're talking about revamping this arrangement?
No, you are absolutely right. That's why the reason for this. See, this is the trigger for change, isn't it? When you are talking about private capital needed and you are not able to attract it, there must be something wrong. Something wrong with the way we operate this cell. So that's why we said, we'll try to revamp it, we'll try to get people. And there's nothing wrong with the people who run it. But maybe some processes may be wrong. Some approach may be wrong. So we have created now model concession agreement, new model concession agreement. That is also in public domain. So somebody has to look into it. So if you try to...
What has been the response from the private sector so far?
We are not... it should be good, hopefully. But just see, budget is just 1 month old. We are trying to do these processes. Then we'll go for a road show. We'll try to attract capital into that. I'm sure it will definitely come.
You've been talking about is land monetization, where you're not talking about selling the land, but you're actually talking about being able to do other things with it in order for you to extract value. Where do things stand, and what are the ideas that you're looking at building on as far as the land piece is concerned for the railway?
The land is something which railway will require for years to come. And then we'll not get it back. Or even if you want to buy it back, you may have to pay a fortune. So why should we sell the land? But why the idea of selling land has come is for getting money. So if you can create an organization which has underlying asset like this, and that entity then becomes very precious, because you have such a precious asset like land which is underlying into that. So that valuable entity then can be used as some
But is there
security.
something concrete now on the table as far as what you intend to do with land?
We are thinking about a securitization model for this, but as I told you, the money is already coming, so maybe we are keeping this, but also the other monetization idea, essentially in terms of our corporate entities. They are extremely precious entities.
You preempted my question, because that's exactly what I was going to ask you. You were comparing e-commerce companies that are sort of drawing eye-catching valuations at this point in time with the kind of valuations, for instance, that IRCTC should get.
Is it really true? See, just look at it like this. Ultimately, one model that we have talked about is that you sell everything that we have and we just hands-off business. Railways cannot do that. Railways will have to remain as a very strong entity, a government-owned company, a government-owned entity, but railways have companies under it. There are companies which have done a lot of business, and their valuation will keep rising, because suppose now we execute these projects, say 8 lakh crores, and part of that, say about 50% or maybe 60-70% are executed through our PSUs. What will be the valuation of these PSUs? If they are going to deal with a turnover of 5-6 lakh crores over the next few years' time, the valuation goes up. If we can increase the valuation of these companies properly, then you can monetize the value of that company for the benefit of railways. And therefore, railways continue to be government-owned. Railways entities can be leveraged in particular ways so that they can execute work of a much larger magnitude. In turn, the valuation of these companies goes up. The valuation going up, you can use that valuation for putting in more money into the railways.
Let me ask you about the bullet train first, and I understand that the feasibility study has already been conducted and submitted to the ministry. Where do things currently stand as far as the bullet train is concerned, and is this really something that makes economic sense for us?
Firstly, the Japanese are doing a feasibility studies for Mumbai-Ahmedabad route. Their report will be available very soon. They are willing to fund it also. So therefore, this particular issue will be funded by Japan with the feasibility studies made by them. Feasibility study incidentally includes this economic viability which we are talking about. So that will be definitely taken care of. The second component is between China. And Chinese are again keen to look into feasibility studies. And that idea was from Mumbai to Chennai, which is Delhi to Chennai, which is a little longer route. So maybe first route we may take from Delhi to Nagpur or something like this. This again, Chinese will eventually, it's of course too little early to say, but probably could also fund it. So the foreign funding essentially will involve, they will look at the feasibility, they will also study the market, and they will decide on it. So I think these issues will have to be factored into when we decide the final.
By when will we have a final decision on both these projects?
In Japanese will happen sooner, because that is at a very advanced stage, in the next few months. Chinese might take a little longer.
Since we talked about private technology, let me talk to you about private companies. The likes of GE, and you know this better than I do, have been waiting in the wings for more than a decade now for the government to get its act together as far as reforms are concerned. Where do things currently stand as far as foreign private companies are concerned who've been looking at the railway opportunity?
I cannot tell you about an individual company because that is wrong for me to say. But I can definitely say that we want the private sector participation into areas where we feel that they can do value addition, their capital can help railways to do better. We'll definitely open for it, and most of these will be available through public domain. In fact, I already told the railway board that they are independent to take decision, because this will not be like in the past. Some of these decisions went to the last phase and could not be concluded because of political reasons. So to ensure that there is no political interference in terms of proper commercial decision making, I'm completely out of it. So this decision will be taken by them.
Okay, but no pussyfooting around the issue of FDI from private companies. You're not restricting FDI only to multilateral funding?
See, this is something which is open. As I said, see, this is not an ideological issue for us. It's a very simple, what helps railway we should do, what doesn't help railway we need not do. Simple.
So does private FDI help or hurt the railways because of the union concerns?
This all depends upon case-to-case basis. It is why we should make it an ideological debate. Whatever is needed for railways, we'll do. Okay.
Since we're talking about contentious issues, let me ask you about tariffs. You did not move on tariffs this time around because you said that there's no case for a hike in tariffs, considering you haven't been able to improve services. I'm assuming then that you will see improvement in services on the basis of the promises that you've held out in this particular budget. So maybe there will be a case, given the market economics, for a tariff hike.
There is no reason to prejudge any issue.
Sure.
As it comes, we'll definitely deal with it.
No, but depoliticizing
tariffs. Conscious of the fact.
Yeah.
Conscious of the fact that last few years we have been not able to increase the number of passengers traveling by train. So if I am a commercial organization, I should be sensitive to this issue. That if I am losing a customer segment, people are thinking that, we are actually losing business segment only on freight, which is not true. In fact, freight is quite stable because of coal, which is 50% of the revenue, which is still there with us. There is no problem with that at all. But we have lost customers. Our passenger increase has gone down. So I must be sensitive to it, how to get more passengers in the train, because they are also a very important segment of my revenue. So I must keep this in mind when we decide about any policy.
But depoliticizing tariffs, because you spoke about that in your budget,
we are definitely
you've set up a mechanism of some sort, or at least you hope to set up a mechanism of some sort in order.
That's exactly what I was telling you. There's Panagariya and there will look at a regulatory framework which will include this.
Which will include the tariff depoliticization as well.
And also the costing part. We have started separately the costing part to understand what will be the cost, what cost goes into this.
We wish you the very best of luck with your plans, Mr. Prabhu. It's always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very much for joining us on CNBC-TV18. With that, it's time for us to wrap up this special edition. Thanks very much for watching. Goodbye.